Hello and welcome to Viewpoints. We're talking about research in Homeland Security today, and I'm joined now by Nola Joyce, a recent graduate of the program here at CHDS. Nola, congratulations on graduating, first of all.
Thank you.
Your thesis, which, by the way, won the Outstanding Thesis Award, congratulations on that as well, is entitled, Can You Lead Me Now? Leading in the Complex World of Homeland Security. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, my thesis is a little bit different than others from this center in that I didn't really focus on a policy or a program implementation issue. I focused on what I've considered to be an overarching issue in Homeland Security, and that's leadership. And leadership in leading is something that I think is needed in the profession to be understood and how to do it well to move the profession forward.
What's the central point, or the central argument of the thesis, if you will?
Well, the main claim of the thesis is that it is leading, the activities of leading, that will move an organization, a traditional bureaucratic organization, to a higher level of functioning, especially those organizations that are in the midst of complexity or even on the edge of chaos. And that leading is a process, and as such, you can begin to distill the activities within that process. And by doing that, you can not only understand it, but convey it to others.
Did you find that that's a politically dangerous position to hold?
Yes, I think so. I think that because leading requires that one begin to distill, if you will, the right ideas. The ideas that are solutions to complex problems, difficult problems, often political problems, and that sometimes those right ideas aren't the ideas that are held in common. And so one of the crucial tasks of leading is to convey that right idea through visioning, storytelling, and through action. And because it is that kind of activity, often you will have people who will align themselves because they see the idea in the same way as solving the problem that's been presented to them, and others who will not see it that way, for whatever the reason. And so the role of the leader in the leading activity is not only to discover the right idea and to convey it through storytelling and action, but also to begin to help construct the social reality around the idea, around the problem set, and how we can go from point A to point B as a collective group. And so it becomes very much like a play with actors, and followers are very much part of this whole process.
I'd like to follow up on the idea of storytelling and have you explain a little bit more what you mean by that. Certainly in these early generations of Homeland Security, we're working on constructing a narrative that's common to all of us. So by storytelling, you mean?
By storytelling, I mean the process by which a person, a leader, has come in his own or her own mind to the realization of how to solve a problem in the best possible way. But to be a leader, you have to do more than that. You can't just get the right idea, you have to convey it. You have to convey it in a way that energizes and mobilizes others to that same vision. And so storytelling is a way in which the leader begins to convey the right idea in the language and in the means by which the audience can relate to. For example, the subject of my research is Charles H. Ramsey, retired police chief from Washington, D.C. And he used to tell a story when he would talk about community policing, in that he thought the old metaphor of the thin blue line for policing was not the right metaphor. Because the thin blue line implies that there's somebody on one side and someone on the other side. And so the question for him was, where do the police stand? Which side? Or do they stand in the middle, separating the two? He chose a metaphor totally different, and that was one of a thread weaved through a tapestry. The community being the tapestry, the police being the thread. And so by telling that story and using that metaphor, it conveys the concepts of community policing. That is, policing is interwoven in all of community processes and institutions. And so he did not talk about the philosophy of community policing. He told the story of community policing to policemen, to citizens, and they began to see the same picture he saw.
That's very interesting. Is this distinction between inherent qualities versus behaviors or activities the difference between your research and so many of the other thousands of works on leadership that are so prevalent today?
Yes, as I was doing my research, I came across a fact that was stated in which the author maintained there were 35,000 different definitions for leadership. Wow. Now, in that, it tells me we don't know what it is. And there are certainly at least 4 major theories of leadership. But what I fell in line with was the idea of a process and a social interaction between the one who is leading and those who are following. And that often those roles switch, and that it's very much like a dance in which the lead often changes. And an effective leader is one who can understand that and play off and play with his audience and do so effectively.
Nola, how do we begin to implement your research? What's the first step for states and locals?
I think the first step, and I want to make it clear that I don't think leading happens only at the top of an organization. Leading can and does happen throughout the organization. A leader of a division, of a unit in an organization is going through major organizational change is called upon to lead and to perform very similar activities as those individuals at the top. But that does not negate the fact that the individual at the top of an organization has the responsibility to also lead. So I think the first step, as I reflect back, is that those of us who are in positions that can lead and should be leading is first reflect upon ourselves and within ourselves. And frankly, a good leader is a person who believes that he or she can lead, not only can lead, but also have sort of the manifest destiny to lead, to accept that responsibility. And then once you've done that for yourself, begin to step back and talk with others of like mind to discover the problems, to explore the solutions, and come to the right idea for you and for your organization, and then begin to tell it and to demonstrate it in actions and words, because consistency is key. You can say one thing and do something different, and you're not going to have followers because they're active in this interchange. They're going to be looking and listening. And then the other key piece of this is that organizing and mobilizing the organization to take action. And that's where we usually think about leadership, and which is, policies, procedures, vision statements, and all that. That's important. What my research suggests, though, that there's a whole social interaction piece that we also need to consider and put into place.
Very timely research indeed. Thank you, Nola.
Thank you, Lauren.